Hello, stupid.
Hello, Saniya.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
Good. Had a busy morning, but
Yeah.
doing good. Yeah.
How come busy? Oh, because you were working on your notes, right?
I know it was a little last minute this time, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm good to record, and I wasn't at all. So, did all my research this morning, but I feel like that's also a nice little take because now everything is like fresh in my head.
Mm. Also, I just fully acknowledge that I put you on the spot just before you do your episode, so I apologize for
No,
that.
I think that's good. And it's so funny because I think like we've gotten in like a pattern, like you do the research heavy episodes and I do the conspiracy and personal episodes.
Mm.
And then on top of that, I'm just doing a research heavy episode this time.
I know. I'm so excited.
I know. I think I am too. We'll see how it goes.
Well, you'll be able to relate to my struggle a bit more afterwards.
I know. You know what? Even though it's like your kind of episode, it's still my take on it. I don't have half as many numbers in there like you do. Like there were a lot of like dates coming up and I was like, nope.
Nope.
Too
Some
many
time ago.
numbers here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, before you reveal your subject, I do have a question for you.
Okay. Oh god.
Typically, do you feel safe jumping into public pools?
Yes.
For me, it depends.
That's actually a really good one. I like that.
Thank you. I modified it because that's not what it says. What it says is like, "Hey, Dad, is it safe to dive in the pool?" And the answer is just, "It depends." I was like, "No. I can do better than that. Let me contextualize a little bit."
Yeah. Threw me off too. I thought you had a legit question for me until you pulled out your book.
I know.
I was like, wait, what? We didn't talk about this.
Because I feel like, especially with my accent, the punchline could be just, for me it depends, and you wouldn't get it. So I really wanted to like show off the book so that you're on like dad joke mode.
Yeah. I'm glad. Thank you.
Yeah. I know
Great
what I'm
dad
working with.
Yeah. We've been doing this for what? 14 episodes now.
I know, isn't it crazy? 14. Justin just told me like, "Oh my god, that's a fortnight." I was like, "I guess it is."
That's so funny. I
So
mean, and like, we started, I wonder if we'll keep this up in the summer, you know?
I mean, I that's the goal, isn't it? I thought we
No,
were
I
on the
would
same
love
page.
that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like we made it through the holidays with like busy schedules, busy
Hmm.
work schedules. We made it through me going on vacation.
Hmm.
I wonder if something's gonna be like, oh, like, you know what? We just can't do it this week. We're too busy.
I mean, I
I
feel
hope not.
like you went on short vacation, so it was fine. Um, but we might have to get a little bit more organized with like planning ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
or having like some emergency episodes or whatever. Like this is, we should have this on a private meeting, discuss this on a private meeting. But the goal, everyone, is to continue
May will
doing
be the
this
real
throughout the
test when
summer.
we both are on vacation in May.
Oh yeah, we're both on vacation in May.
It'd be cool if I could meet you where you are and we could do like a overseas episode.
That would be really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't say where I'm going yet because I'm revealing it next week.
Ooh, okay. I know I was gonna be like, but you know what? Yeah, it's the little foreshadowing for you guys
There you
listening.
go. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, my day was great. Thank you for asking.
Please tell me about your day. That's literally what I do to Avril every single day when he comes home.
Yeah.
I like ask him how his day is. He goes off in like a whole thing, and I instead of replying about how his day is, I'm like, "Yeah, mine was good too. Thank you for asking."
Yeah. I actually didn't have much going on today, but I do have like a bank teller anecdote. I went to the bank because I had to do this new card and the card wasn't working. So, anyways, I had to go figure that out with the teller. But the booth next to me, this like really, really like offensively handsome guy comes to the teller and like offensively handsome, but also like your classic like kind of douchey, like cocky straight boy, right?
Mhm.
And the girl there, I think like I didn't catch the beginning of the interaction, but like she seemed to recognize him, like they knew each other from childhood or something, and like she was melting, like so giggly and like stuff like that. And then he asked for also the like booths are really close to each other. I could hear the whole conversation really well.
Wait,
He
hold on. Sorry. So you're talking to your bank teller, but this is a bank teller with a client next door.
Yeah, next to me.
Okay, next to you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's at the counter, right? So it's just like standing next to me. And he's asking for like to take out $1,000 US in banknotes, but he wants like the majority of it in singles.
Strip club.
Right? And she's like, "Oh, we don't actually carry singles. We have to order them ahead of time, but I can give you like five banknotes, something like." And he was being kind of difficult about it. And he was being like kind of pissy about it, like, "Oh, that's really disappointing. Like, that's really kind of what I need. Like, what can we do about this?" And like, he wouldn't let it go. And I was like,
Can I get a
"Dude,
discount?
that's like so embarrassing for you already, and it's kind of tacky
Yeah.
that insisting." And this poor girl was so enthralled with him that she was still like, "Oh, yeah." And then he made like this stupid joke about like she was trying to enroll him into like the protection cover, like $5 a month for like no low balance coverage or whatever.
Mhm.
And he was like, "Oh, at that cost, I prefer paying for Disney Plus." And she was like, "Oh."
Oh my god.
Well, it was very entertaining.
So
Yeah.
awkward. But I love like being like a fly on the wall to those kind of interactions.
Oh, yeah, it was really, really entertaining.
I
The poor,
love overanalyzing people.
yeah. My poor teller was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, this is taking such a long time." I was like, "Don't worry, take your time. I'm good."
They're like, you're like actually done, and she's like, "Okay, thank you. See you next
Yeah,
time." You're like, "Oh, but I really want to hear the
yeah.
end of this." That's so funny.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, quick little life update here. My cat isn't like doing great, like her health. She has like a stone in her bladder.
Oh no.
And she's so cuddly that it's kind of insane. Like, I love it. But like today, I was on my laptop on the couch and she had to be on my lap. Right. And I'm like,
Oh.
I have a laptop. So I had her on my lap with a pillow on top with my laptop on it. And then I thought she'd leave me alone, but she's on my lap now too, which like I love and I feel bad because she isn't doing great. But
It's so sweet, but it's kind of concerning too. It's like, "Oh no, she doesn't feel well. She wants cuddles."
I know, yeah. But then she's like, she's a tortoiseshell, and they say like tortoiseshell cats have tortitude, where they do have like a little bit of attitude problems. So, and like she's a cat, so it's like I pet her for 5 seconds too long, and then she gives me like a little
Hmm.
nip. But then she doesn't refuse to get off my lap, so now I'm just like, help.
Yeah. Oh. Do you know if the medication, because you told me about this a little bit, do you know if the medication is helping?
It says 7 days later we'll do another urine test.
Right.
So, and like it's because she had like blood on her urine, and like we have a dark color litter, so we can't tell if there's still blood in her urine. But the doctor said like, don't worry about it. Wait the 7 days till the medication's done, and then we'll retest it.
Mm. You have
Yeah,
dark color litter. That's weird.
yeah. We use like walnut litter now.
Oh, fancy. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's better for like her and the environment.
Right.
Um, I just hate the smell of regular litter.
Right, right, right. Fair. Very fair. Well, we all hope she does better soon. Poor little tequila.
Thank you. Yes, and prayers to my little cat here.
Hmm.
But let's take it away with what I have for you this episode.
Let's.
So, tell me, Doma, do you think of yourself as a fashionable guy?
um, Not really, no.
No?
No.
Okay.
I'm very normcore. And I
Ooh.
think mostly I do it well,
Mhm.
but I'm very bored by my wardrobe. I would really like to switch it up.
Mhm.
And I think I need to go like reintroduce myself to like thrift store shopping because um like it's just I'm a big guy, so it's hard to find clothes that fit me in most stores in the
Mhm.
first place. A lot of the places carry my sizes online, but then it's a hassle to order and to blah blah. And then often you don't have the in-store discounts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of done with like cheap clothes, and I want to buy like pieces that last. So
Mhm.
it's just I'm not in a place right now where I want to spend a lot of money on clothes, but I'm like, you know what? I do want to explore and be a bit more adventurous, so I think I need to go to thrift stores a little bit more often,
Yeah.
and even maybe like pick up the sewing machine and like do, especially
Nice.
for like gym tanks and stuff like that. I could just find some wacky t-shirts and do some tank tops with them or whatever.
That's really cool. That's very creative. But like how would you describe like you are a guy who cares about what you wear. I know like when you have events, you always message me and be like, okay, I'm thinking about wearing this
Mm.
and like dress up your clothing with jewelry. So how
Hmm.
would you describe your fashion style?
Um. Okay. Well, on the everyday life, yeah, definitely normcore.
Hmm. I really
Uh.
like this word that you're using. I've never really heard it before. Normcore.
Really? Oh, it's a thing. Yeah. It's
Nice.
like normie. It's like Kirkland brand, Costco kind of thing.
Like civvies kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like no brand, just
Yeah.
plain colors. Like beige. It's very just or blacks and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like a
Um,
black tee and jeans kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. But I
Mhm.
love like keeping it simple, but then accessorizing with jewelry or stuff like that. And especially since like every now and then I'll do my nails, like it's like I'll have pop up colors there. I have fun glasses, and so I'll try to put those into evidence a bit more.
Mhm.
Um, but for like events and stuff like that, um, I don't know how I would describe it. Again, very simple, like definitely a little bit more queer and gay sometimes. Like I'll have some like see-through shirts and stuff. um
You like patterns and no, prints more than patterns, I think, and you like your little sets, like especially for your beach vacation.
yeah, I'm very much more equipped for summer fashion than winter fashion.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do like a matching set. I do like prints, you're right. I like fun. I want something that like for me like either something that's really fun and colorful, or something that's very mute but elegant.
Mhm.
Nothing in between.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I like
Yeah.
that too, and I think I'm kinda similar in that sense. Would you consider yourself, like, trendy? Which is such a
No.
hard thing to say, but it's like, yeah, like, are you on trends?
No. No, I
Yeah.
think I'll try new things once they were like tested and proven, like that, like it's a trend that I'm late on trends. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll post reels on Instagrams. No, I'll see TikToks on Instagrams 3 weeks later, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the same. I think we all know that I have, like, this insecurity about being a millennial
Yeah.
and dressing like one.
Yeah.
Uh, Recently I'm not a huge jean person anyways, but I think I sold a lot of my jeans during COVID too because I never wore them, and my size changed so much.
Hmm.
Or I think I just had body dysmorphia and I had so many different sizes of jeans. And then I, like, have one pair of jeans and they're skinny and ripped, and I'm like, "Oh god." So then recently I'm like, "I need new jeans."
Yeah.
And I wanted, like, the flare cargo style.
Why?
You know what? It's like they look good too. So I found this is going off topic here. It's not even my notes, but I found Levi's in the States at TJ Maxx for
Yeah.
$12, and they were 70s flare, and they make my butt look so good because they're like nice and tight at the top, and they're
Mm.
still high waisted because they're 70s, but then
Mm.
they go off at the bottom. I was like, oh, so cute. And $12.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, for
I mean,
Levi's.
I think that's what I'll invest into the most. Something that like makes my favorite attributes pop.
Mhm.
Like a t-shirt that give me good arms, or like a pair of pants that gives me like a good butt. That's what I'll spend money on. But uh the flare thing, I feel like you can still pull it off because you look so young.
I am young.
Like
I'm
you
kidding.
can.
Yeah.
Well, you are actually,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
true. I keep forgetting like you're not my age. You are very young. You're more zillennial.
Mhm.
I can see you
I
struggling with tequila.
She just jumped off, and I thought she was gonna take my headphone and
Yeah.
laptop with her.
But also, like, I don't think, wearing something youthful would look out of place on you at all.
Mhm.
And by youthful, I mean more trendy, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
For me, if I was wearing like a crop top and some baggy pants, it would look like I'm trying very hard.
so, like, I think this is, like, a good way to say, like, yeah, because I tried cargos on before, and I was like, "No, I can't do this." Like, I'm so used to, like, tight clothes, so used to high-waisted things, I couldn't do low rise, right? But then I think it's about finding your own between. So, like,
Mm.
the ones I got are baggier, but, like, knee bought from, like, under the knee and up, like, the top of it, it's
Mm.
still tight, so still gives me that security I need as a millennial.
Yeah,
Um
interesting.
Yeah, but I think fashion is kind of just like an extension of your personality, right? And I think a lot of us want to wear clothes on a daily basis that make us feel good, look good. And like what I find so interesting is if you think about a couple decades ago, brand names were just for the upper class, right? We never really, or like the middle to lower class, never really indulged in brand names. You wouldn't see the everyday person walking around with a brand name purse.
Hmm.
While now, more and more, it's getting so common for everyone to kind of had brand names, which to me
Hmm.
is insane. You know, like I am finally starting to feel like, oh, I should maybe have a brand name purse. I can't. I'm not a purse girl, so I can't even fathom spending that kind of money on it. I rather like take that money and get a tattoo instead.
Hmm.
Um, but we see that
Huge
there's a
flex. I'm not a purse girl. I'm a tattoo girl. I'm just one of the
right.
boys.
I'm just one of the boys. Oh my god, I'm not a purse girl. Next year, I kid you not, I will have a designer purse, and I'm gonna look back and be like,
I love. Too funny.
but
Sorry. Yeah.
like it, like now it's like the average person does have these little things or wants these little things, and these little
Yeah.
things have become more achievable now. The little line between upper and middle class has kind of started blending together. But then at the same
Hmm.
time, you do see like influencers that have their, Gucci purses also posting on Instagram about their budget friendly Amazon finds,
Hmm.
when it comes to clothing. So I
That's
think the
interesting,
lines are
actually.
blurring both ways.
Yeah.
But fashion as a whole has kind of taken the world by storm. We see Fashion Week all over the world. You see New York, Paris, London, Milan, and fashion isn't just for the rich anymore, like we just kind of talked about. Um, you think of the budget friendly things like Zara and H&M, but those aren't even budget friendly anymore. I feel like now when you're looking for a friendly option, you kind of go in towards like Shein and Amazon and Tumi.
Mm.
Like, like $20 Zara dress isn't it. It's more about like I can get this at Shein for $5.
Yeah.
And that's when we kind of start talking about fast fashion because that is not those kind of pieces that you invest in. That's something like a one-time wear outfit that you get for vacation to post that one Instagram pic in, right?
I mean, I don't know. For me, as coming from someone who like can't um really wear anything that comes from Shein or stuff like that, like it just never fits.
Mhm.
Um I still consider like, 20 bucks at Zara. Well, Zara never carries in a size, but 20 bucks as like at Winners or whatever being like just like a throwaway shirt.
Mhm. I know, which is so sad,
Yeah.
um, because $20 is not cheap when you think about it,
No.
and shirts should not just be, like, a couple times wear thing.
Right?
So this kinda got me thinking, yes, we talk about fast fashion now on a daily basis, we're getting more aware of our consumerism, um, but when did this all start? you
Mm.
know? And I kind of started looking at the history of fashion and where we got these pieces from. Because if you think about not decades ago, but centuries ago, this is not the way things were, you know?
Right.
Um, where did people really go to find clothing? It wasn't their local winners, right? It was their
Sorry,
local
excuse me. When you say
seamstress.
centuries ago, which date?
I'll be getting to the date shortly,
I'm
but
kidding. I'm
we're
kidding.
talking like BC times,
I
right?
don't even remember if I roasted you about this while we were recording or before we were recording. It was while
While
we
we were
were. Okay,
recording.
okay, okay, good.
Yeah. Everyone knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay, good.
So yeah, so one of the most evident ways in which cultures influence fashion is through traditional garments and attires. Different cultures have their own distinct ways, styles, and clothing traditions, which are often deeply rooted in history and heritage.
Mm,
So now we're talking about ancient fashion today.
yeah, yeah.
Right? And ancient fashion is not something that people copied from the magazines. It's what different cultures kind of came up with themselves.
Hmm.
And it was fashion that was more friendly to what they did. You know, you're not going to be wearing clothing that doesn't cover your whole body if you're working in the fields in the middle of winter, you know?
Hmm. Hmm.
And fashion decades ago, or sorry, centuries ago, was more about what you do. It was a way of survival almost, right? And just covering your private parts
Right.
when you think about it. So it was often made by the person themselves or a family member with what materials and supplies they had back then. If you were a little bit richer, you would go to the seamstress, the town seamstress. But it was all made for you, right? It wasn't just made and manufactured for multiple people. You don't go to the seamstress and kind of shop around and be like, oh, can you make this for me? It's kind of like, hey, I'm
Made for
looking
order.
for exactly, right? Um, and like, how many of us can say we have made for order things right now?
Right? That's such a flex. Like it would be like very, very such as like display of status to
Hmm.
have anything that's more than just something that your mom made at home, you know?
Exactly. I think if I think about the made for order things I have, it's like almost all just my Indian outfits.
Right.
But that's like when I shop online and I place an order according to my measurements,
Hmm.
right? But it's not just made for me. There's hundreds of people in the world that have that item. It just that's made for my measurement. I don't think I own one thing that I was custom made for me, designed for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something that's way more common still in India than it would be here. Like I feel like all of those do you have a lot of those like seamstress shop and tailor
Mhm.
shops that you go in and pick your fabrics and stuff like that that you
Exactly.
don't
Yeah,
really have
it
here
is.
as much.
Yeah, for sure. But I think when you think about it, like the upper class in North America maybe does that a bit more, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just less affordable
Um,
here than it is over
yeah.
there.
And I'm thinking about like men's fashion. I think what men probably might have is made for order suits.
Yeah.
You don't get your like everyday wear like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so back then, clothing was often unisex, usually in the lower class, because it was kind of like one size fits all, put it on kind of thing.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, and often not dyed and made from linen, cotton, or flax. And then there was a belt, maybe, to
Mm.
fasten it around your waist, and this was probably more purposeful than anything, not for fashion. It was kind of so it's not flowing around if you're working in the fields and it's windy.
Yeah, just to
Uh,
pull it all together.
exactly. Now, when we think of belts, it's yeah, I'd like to keep your pants up, but it's more of a fashion thing, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, as we know when we studied history, that the upper class almost often dressed a lot more extravagant, and their clothing was made by the town seamstress or their own seamstress. Right? They wasn't them or their family members making their clothing for them.
Hmm.
Uh, their clothing often had more colors and using more expensive cloth like silk. And while the poor wore something a bit more purposeful, the rich dressed it up with jewels and embroidery and different things like stones, right?
Mm.
So I'm gonna there's so much information about Asian culture, fashion, and stuff like that, but I've picked a couple different ancient civilizations and countries that we can kind of talk about and
Oh,
what
cool.
they're more popular clothing is.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
All right, so let's start with ancient India. So the olden days dresses in India can be tracked all the way back to the Indus Valley civilization, which existed around 2700 BC. Well, my first number.
Ooh, well done.
During this period, both men and women wore a piece of clothing around their bodies. As time passed, the clothing of ancient India evolved and different styles emerged during different periods of time. So, I want to talk about a specific clothing and probably one of the most popular and relevant piece of clothing in Indian history. Do you have any guesses here what we could be talking about?
Would it be a sari?
Yes, a sari. So, a little
Sorry.
pop quiz here for you,
Yeah.
since you got that question right. What do you think the word sari means? I have options.
Okay, thank
A.
you.
A. Sari is an abbreviation of sarong. B. Sari means circle of life. C. Sari means strip of cloth. Or D. The Hindu word for sarong.
What's sarong?
Oh, sarong. Oh, good question there. So a sarong, let me get you the proper definition of it before I kind of go on my
Okay.
tangent here. So sarong, I think you know what a sarong is. A sarong in Southeast Asia is usually just like a piece of cloth or fabric wrapped around your waist. Kind of think of like a beach
Oh
cover-up
yeah,
that
yeah,
women
yeah, yeah,
wear.
yeah. Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I would say is um a a
Do you want
a,
me to go over
a,
the options?
a strip of cloth.
Whoa, you got it.
Because I was just thinking about that when you were talking about it. Is like, is there even some stitching in a sari, or is it just like the way you wrap a cloth around you?
Yeah, exactly. So other than the two other components that come with a sari, I know, look at you. As an Indian, I'm very proud. You actually give it some thought.
Well, I mean, it does help to have a Indian best friend. I do learn a few things here
Yeah,
and there.
because I talk about saris all the time, and
That's all you talk about. Literally will not shut up about your saris.
yeah, I'm wearing one right now. I'm kidding. All right, so yeah, exactly. Sari is just an unstitched garment. The components that come with a sari is what they call a petticoat, which is like a skirt that you wear underneath the sari. Um, which is usually the color of the sari itself or like kind of
Okay.
more skin shade. So it's like, if you have a fabric of sari that's a bit more see-through, then your legs don't show. And it's
Right.
something that gives the sari to tuck into. And then there's a blouse that's made out of either the material of the sari, but I think now it's getting way more common to get like a different color to make your sari pop a little bit. And the
Mm,
blouse is the part that's like, tailored to your body. Other than that, the sari itself, the part that you wrap around you, is just an unstitched cloth. There are more than 100 ways to drape a sari depending on the region, the fabric, the length, and the width of the garment, and what the wearer might be doing that day. So,
oh.
back in the day, obviously, these women were, oh, sorry, I hit my mic there. Women were out there maybe working on the fields, cleaning their house, taking care of their kids. So, they'd probably want a more secure way to fasten their sari, as opposed to now when thinking of, wedding culture, women wear saris to go to weddings. It's more probably in a fashion statement, maybe to show off your
Mhm.
blouse or show off your figure and things like that. So it was made by cotton in ancient times, but over the years, sari has been, could be made from many different textiles such as chiffon, georgette, silk, and you often see them with more embroidery, jewels, stones, and many different ways to make them unique, right?
Mhm.
If you, like you mentioned earlier, if you still go to India, you can make your own sari. It's very common to have it made for measure. You go out,
Yeah,
you pick out a kind of fabric you want it, and they make it exactly how you want it. Um,
which is so cool.
Fun fact, or not fun fact, question for you. You've been to
Yeah.
India before, right? A couple times?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever been to like a seamstress or a shop, a fabric shop?
No, I've seen some fabric shops at the market,
Mhm.
but I've never really been in it because it's very overwhelming environment for me. Like there's just so much going on. It feels like everything's gonna fall onto me. It's like a little bit of like
Yeah.
tiny moment. Um, I did want to look into getting a suit made once, but I never got around to doing that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think fabric shops in India are a really cool experience. I think the key is going with someone who knows what they're doing,
Oh yeah.
as opposed to just like walking in one for fun. I've been with my mom a couple of times and family or just friends, and what I love about the Indian fabric shops is, so you'll be like, "Oh, can I see that fabric?" These men, it's usually men working at these shops, will pull it
Hmm.
out, start unraveling yards and yards of it. Where in my head, I'm like, "No, no, don't do that. I just wanted to see it. Like, you don't have
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
that much for me." But they do it no problem. Then they'll also put them on themselves and, like, kind of model
And
it for you to
model.
try and sell it to you. I
Wow.
love it. It's a
Little
really
drag
fun
moment.
yeah.
That's really fun.
It's a really fun
Um,
experience. If anyone, goes to India anytime soon, definitely walk into a fabric shop.
yeah, yeah. The bundles of fabric they have is insane. Like there's so much. I think that's the part that stresses me out. Is that there's just like packed so tightly, and it's like, especially that like I'm probably not shopping for myself in the
Mhm.
ones I see in the market. So,
Yeah, I also, like, think, like, I just don't have that much of a vision for what I
hmm
want to be, like,
hmm
take it from fabric.
yeah,
I, like, usually, like, if I do shop for Indian clothing, I'll go to stores where they have outfits and be like, "Okay, I want this one," and get it made to measure.
yeah,
Um But I think that culture is really cool, and the fact that it's been going on for centuries and the way
hmm
saris have evolved, becomes such a fashion statement, not only in India anymore, all over the world. You see many big name designers kind of taking that sari and making it their own.
yeah.
Um,
It's really cool that it's such a versatile piece of clothes, also that it can be worn like in so many different ways, right?
yeah, and I think as we go through the different ancient cultures, we will be talking about a lot of things that were very simplified back then and that
Mm.
has is such a versatile thing. That's why people kind of keep it up till this day.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. Um so that was ancient India and a little glimpse of one of like the most popular things that has come out from ancient India fashion. Now let's move on to ancient Greece.
Ooh.
So let's talk about some garments that were essentially from the archaic time period through the classical time period. So we're talking about 700 to 500 BC.
Okay.
So these names are very hard to pronounce. But as I kind of describe them, you'll realize they are something that we've adapted into life right now.
Okay.
So this one is, oh God, strip, stropion, and it is a cloth band which serves almost as a bra now. So I think it was kind of just to
Oh.
wear something for women to cover up their breasts, right?
Right, right, right.
Then we have perizoma, and it's a loincloth,
Oh,
aka underwear,
right.
just worn by men and women. We have chitonis, which is a tunic of two different styles, both worn by both sexes.
Right.
We have chlamys, which is an outer garment used as a short cape or cloak, primarily worn by men. We have a peplos. Oh God, these are so bad. I'm so sorry
Right.
to any Greeks listening to this podcast. I have like I like Googled the pronunciation and I have the weight it said beside it too, but I'm just bad at pronunciation, guys. Sorry. But a peplos is a garment worn mainly by women over their shatanis or instead of one. So shatanis being like a tunic.
So, quick question: like the one that's more like a bra and the loincloth, were those worn under other things?
So in the hotter months, this was
Yeah.
probably just worn as clothes, right? So this is like
Oh,
700
okay.
to 500 BC. So I think, I don't, and I think Greece, as opposed to like India, where they were a bit more like about covering up women and stuff like that, I don't
Hmm.
think ancient Greece was that much.
Right, right, right. Okay.
And it was probably during hotter weathers, and then depending on what they're doing as well.
Right.
And then they use things like the peplos, which is a garment to kind of like to cover up, or this cape that we were talking about, men worn by men to kind of put on top,
Mm,
kind of covering them up from the sun, which I kind of think.
right. How cool
Um,
would it be if it was still like acceptable to wear capes?
I
I
think
would
it would be
love
so
wearing
cool.
capes.
I think it's like a very high fashion thing too. Like people still do it out there.
Yeah, but like it's like either you look like a freak or like you're going to like the Met Gala.
Yeah.
There's no in
Yeah, it's
between.
not like an everyday thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like if you're super high fashion, you could kind of pull it off like to the bar, you know?
Like, okay, name one time you saw someone pull off a cape other than like on the red carpet.
Okay, okay, what I'm thinking of, you know those like blazers or cardigans that have a cape attached? That's what I'm thinking. No?
What? Did you just make up a piece of clothing? Like that's
No.
is that a thing?
Okay, hang on. Long cardigan cape. I okay, like look okay, kind of like poncho style. Like these kind of capes. I'm gonna send
Just someone who just wears their coat without putting their arms in the sleeves?
Yeah, I'm kidding. No, but
Okay.
yeah, that is a different thing. Then that's super fashionable. But it
Yeah.
just sent you like this kind of like poncho cape look that you can kind of still pull off.
Oh, those are cute.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
thinking. No? I'm not
I
thinking like
like it's
literally
like
a string tied around your neck cape.
this feels more like wearing a blanket out in public wrapped around your shoulders than a
Yeah.
cape, but I do
Ooh,
get
yeah,
what you're
like
saying.
blanket scarves could totally be a cape.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see it.
I think I'm gonna get you a cape this year for your birthday.
Oh my god. Okay. I won't stop you, but I can't promise I'll wear it.
Okay, so a couple more here. We have a peblama, which is a shawl worn over your chiton or polo. Oh god, these are so bad. Peplos, both by men and women. And then lastly, we have a hematation, an outer garment worn as a long cape or a cloak by both sexes. So, as
Okay.
mentioned, a lot of these clothings are simply just cloth in square, cylinder, rectangle shapes. They're all uncut, sewn a piece of cloth that's either made from linen or wool. And depending on how someone wears it, it'll have a different effect. And then you can kind of fasten it by pins or buttons, brooches, or belts to kind of hold it in place.
Yeah, they were big on brooches and stuff, right? To hold like like the cape hanging off just one shoulder with a brooch, that's a vibe. That's a
That's
vibe.
such a vibe.
Yeah.
What does that remind you of when we think of ancient Greek?
Well, it's kind of the same, right? As like in India, there's no it's not sewn, it's just wrapped.
Yeah, but what's the ancient Greek word for it that we kind of use now? Like you'll probably see it as a costume nowadays on Halloween.
Like like
Starts with a T.
a toga?
Yeah,
Yeah. I
right?
just look at the word.
So
Yeah.
I think that brings us to our next garment that is so popular. Unfortunately, more as a costume, I would say,
Right.
but kind of like sarees, it is one of the most popular pieces that come from ancient Rome. Um, slash ancient Greek. So it's a one piece woolen garment that's draped loosely around the shoulders and down the body. There
Mm.
is evidence that toga was worn by all free Romans during the Roman monarch and the Roman Republic, while slaves and children wore tunics. After the
Oh, okay.
2nd century BC, toga was worn over tunic by men, and while women wore stolas, a long pleated dress similar to a Greek um, chiton. Girls and boys under the age of puberty wore toga, uh, partexa, and it's a special type of toga with a purple band at the lower edge. So, similar to like I was talking about ancient times in general, what you wore kind of had a statement. It was when you see the free people roaming around, they wore togas while the slaves and children were wearing wore tunics.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of talking about how like brand names are like what you see is kind of your identity.
Yeah.
right? Which we will go into a bit more when we're talking about ancient Europe as well. But it's the simpler outfits are worn by the lower
Well,
class.
it's a display of status.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately still is that now,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think the lines have blurred a little bit more.
Um, I think some people have more control over the message you're trying to display. It's less about just your wealth.
Mhm.
Like you can send different messages, but it still feels very much like um okay, so RuPaul has the saying that I absolutely love is we're all born naked and the rest is drag.
Yeah.
And like yeah, it's that. It's all costume,
It's
right?
so
So
true.
when you put on a costume, you have an intention behind that costume.
It is so true. But it's so funny. I remember when I worked at a restaurant here in Vancouver, um, I live in like an area where it's like I live in a condo and now it's becoming more for young families to move down here. But
Hmm.
before this area was known for like old money,
Hmm.
and generational wealth. So one of the restaurants I worked down here, and it's just like a chain restaurant, Cactus Club. You guys have probably heard of it if you're from Canada. Um, a lot of the girls would show up with their Gucci bags, and their brand name purses. And I was very confused because I'm like, huh? Like, how do you have that kind of money when we're working at the same restaurant? You know?
Hmm.
But I think now it's like, in class, if you're in school, you might have the same tuition as the next person, but depending on where they come from, they might be wearing a Gucci sweater, and what kind of money they have. But at the end of the day, I would consider everyone in that school like the same kind of class, like lower, middle class, I guess. But it's not. I feel like it's all mixed into one.
But also, I feel like that's the thing with brands is that a lot of people will spend more money than their means on brand to send a message that they have more money than their means,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? For me, maybe less so now because now you can get most phones for $0 in a plan.
Yeah.
But iPhones were very much that at first.
It was
It was like, well,
status.
it was status. It's you get the most expensive phone to show that you can afford to get the most expensive phone.
Yeah.
This regardless of if it's above your budget or not,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then when you could like literally couldn't do it, well, people look down on you for having Android. It's like, oh, you can't even afford an iPhone.
Yeah. But now, is it me? Do I just, because I don't even know what the value of phones are anymore because I haven't bought one in so long or even looked to buy one. But like now, I would say Androids are more expensive than iPhone, right?
Those lines are blurred definitely more now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say more expensive, but you you have a whole range of price
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Android,
Yeah.
but the higher end are similar price in iPhones. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like you like I'm thinking of like finance bros that have like cooler, like like those double-sided iPhones that open up like this now, like a book.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
Going back to ancient times here when they didn't have things like iPhones and Androids. Garments were made out of linen and wool. Linen was more expensive and mainly available for the upper class, while spinning wool was widely practiced by women in ancient Greece. Um, and was used to make clothes for all classes and every age group. Dyed clothing was also available for the wealthy, as well as garments decorated with prints and weights at the bottom to make them drape across your body and hold securely, which I thought was kind of cool. Imagine having like weights at the bottom of your dress.
Right. That is interesting. You know what's interesting also is like now it's the opposite. Wool is more expensive than linen.
Right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that's so interesting. I wonder why. I guess because, like,
Uh,
back then, like, it was a bit. Actually, no, I don't have an explanation.
I would think machinery. I
Mhm.
think it's easier to produce linen now because of machinery, but before by hand it was easier to produce wool.
Yeah,
That's just a wild guess.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on to ancient Japan. Um,
Ooh.
I think of Japan as kind of a fashion hub, or a very big fashion hub, actually. Kind of like the
Hmm.
France of Asia, right? Um,
Yeah.
When you think of Japanese fashion now, it's like loud colors, prints, street and high fashion, Harajuku aesthetic, you know. But early Japanese clothes were just plain and practical, suited to a
Mm.
nation of hunters and gatherers who later evolved into farmers and craftsmen. Um, what do you think is one of the most iconic pieces of clothing that came from Japan?
I would say the kimono.
Exactly. Look at you just acing all of these. Let's see, I'll just throw a random one at you here. Do you know what a kimono means?
Oh, I don't get choices.
I no, I didn't think of it.
Um, I want to say it's something about wrapped linen again.
No. I was gonna be
No.
blown away if you got it because this one's so hard. And like
Okay.
looking
Okay.
at you, I was like, wait, does he know?
What does it mean?
So it actually means wearing thing. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd get that one, but, like, your face made me think you would, so I was like, "But what?" But it was not always referred to as a kimono in its history. The first actual, like, kimono, but it wasn't referred to a kimono back then, was from, the Heian period from 794 to 1192 BC. Um,
Okay.
so a kimono back then was straight cuts of fabric sewn together to create a garment that fit every sort of body shape. It was easy to wear and infinitely adaptable. By the Edo
Oh.
period, so this is 1603 to 1868 BC, it had evolved into a unisex outer garment called kosodo, which literally meant small sleeves. The Costodo was
Mm.
characterized by smaller armor holes. It was only from the Meiji period, that was 1868 to 1912 onwards, that the garment was called a kimono. The last
Mm.
transformation from the Edo era to modern Japan, as we know it, was the years 1603 and 1868. And this is the last era of traditional Japan. Um, Japanese culture developed with almost no foreign influence during this time. And, ooh, getting a little lost in my notes here.
Ooh.
And the Kasoto was one of the key elements from what it was meant to be Japanese. So during this era, the Kasoto was visibly unifying cultural marker. Every Japanese person wore it, regardless of age, gender, and their socioeconomic status. And on
Oh, that's
rare
interesting.
occasions when a Japanese person came in contact with a foreigner, the one visible distinction was that foreigners did not wear a Kasoto, right?
Mm.
Um, Therefore, this became a huge identifier for this culture. Over the years, the cut of a kimono hasn't changed, but what it is has kind of become the identity of the wearer. It becomes more common for women to wear kimonos now, and often we see them with cherry blossoms on it. And cherry
Hmm.
blossoms symbolize mortal feminine beauty. So we can expect to see this more on women than men. And more than that, it's for women to wear for leisure, not for work. So it's more for just like, beauty purposes as for purposeful,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and this is true for most floral patterns. So most more floral patterns are just kind of like everyday leisure wear.
Hmm.
The fabric quality and a choice of pattern, thread, paint, woodblock print, and color are essential criteria for representing someone's rank, age, gender, and refinement of the person wrapped in it. Very
Mm.
similar to fashion
Interesting.
today, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
you choose kind of defines you. It's a extension of your
What I find
personality.
interesting is that it's so much closer to what fashion is today than ancient Greece and ancient
Mhm.
India,
Yeah. Well,
right?
I would say ancient India is kind of similar now when we talk about saris because it's actually no, you're totally right. I was gonna say we can still like we can still personalize it, but it doesn't define you in a way. unless you put,
Hmm.
like, jewels on it, and that's why you wanna show that you come from money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Alright. So, there's so much more that I kinda wanna talk about with ancient fashion, but obviously, I don't have all the time in the world. One thing I kind of started thinking of as I was going through all these things, like we talked about 3 different cultures with very prominent, pieces that are brought into our
Hmm.
modern day fashion. I wanted to talk about something that didn't really have a purpose back then, but was very common back then and has come into modern fashion. And this is a
Okay.
corset. So what
Oh,
do you
it is. Corset is having a huge
and I
comeback, isn't
think it
it?
has for years. If we look at the decades of fashion that we talk about from 1920s to 1990s, corsets kind of makes an
Yeah.
appearance all over the place, right?
Yeah, but it feels like it was more of a fringe, like goth kind of thing and stuff like that. And now it's really integrated into like mainstream
Mhm.
fashion.
Yeah. What do you think like was the purpose of a corset when it was invented?
Um, I would say the purpose. Well, I want to the answer. Like my first answer. Now I'm thinking it's not because you already sort of hinted that it had no purpose
Well,
back then.
like sorry, when
But
I say no purpose, like obviously everything people wear has a purpose, but it wasn't made to help you work on the fields more. You know what I mean?
no, but it was like
Yeah,
shaping,
like
right?
shapewear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shapewear.
yeah, and that is totally right, right? So corsets became first popular in the 16th century in Europe. These corsets focused on more flattening the bust instead of narrowing the waistline. So it was
Oh,
made to make your
interesting.
boobs look smaller, right? As opposed to now corsets are to push your boobs up. I don't know why I'm describing it with my hands.
Interesting. Yeah, for visuals.
Um, so uh a stiff hoop skirt made a woman's waistline already appear smaller, so it wasn't to make like put your waistline smaller now that it is. It's just to flatten your bust. In the early days, corset was designed to help shape your body into a quote unquote more idealized form. Though they often came at the expense of comfort, right? I think when we watch these age pieces, it's like the women's maids are like really tightening the shit out of
Yeah,
her
yeah, yeah,
while she's really suffering. But it's to,
yeah,
you know, give you this quote unquote idealized form that they looked at before.
yeah. You know what I'm thinking, and I might be way off, but like it feels like beauty standards were maybe a little bit more
Mhm.
androgynous because it's also a period where men wore a lot of makeup and
Mhm.
wigs similar to, and then women apparently were flattening their
Mhm.
chests. Men wear high heels back then also. So it feels like there was maybe one androgynous beauty standards across the
Yeah,
genders.
that's actually a really good observation. I never thought of that before. But like I guess it does make sense, right? When you think of the other cultures, a lot of the clothing was unisex, right? Without it being like
Hmm.
it wasn't like, oh, let's just make everyone equal. It was kind of just like, oh, let's just we have this one thing. Why make two of it? Everyone just wear it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's
and I
interesting.
feel like we are kind of slowly as a society trying to go back to that, you know? Um, very slowly.
Yeah. It feels like there is an effort in that
Yeah.
direction.
You know, when you see the fashion of women right now coming back, it's like we are doing baggier shirts and baggier pants. It's no more about the, you know, like the tightest skinny jean you can find in crop tops, you know?
I would say though that today is less about androgynous and more about gender
Mhm.
blending in the sense that like it's not about trying to look more like a uniform
Mhm.
gender. It's more about like expressing yourself through multiple
Mhm.
different genders.
Yeah. I get that. I
Yeah.
agree with that. Yeah.
But it's true that there is like it feels like the same vibe a little bit.
Mhm. And it's weird that we lost it for a while in the middle, and we were so far apart, you know?
Mm, right?
Um, but going back to corsets were more ceremonial garb than everyday fashion, and it wasn't until the Victorian era uh, that they became more of a fashion statement. Um, Before that, it was kind of considered just like shapewear, like you said, or like a girdle kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
Reading about corsets was so interesting, and there's a lot to talk about how the corset itself has evolved. That I think I can do a whole episode on corsets alone. Um,
Interesting.
but speaking of which, would you ever wear a corset?
Um, I don't think
Mhm.
so. I think I mean, I've already tried on some like
Shapewear?
shape shapewear, like more like some like tighter like tank tops that are supposed to make like and stuff like that. And I found it very
Yeah.
uncomfortable. So I don't know about a corset. I mean, I tried one. I would try one on, but I don't know if I
I
would like it. Have you ever
So
worn one?
no, I don't like the traditional corset where it's like boned in and it really like cinches in your waist. No, I don't. I think I would kill
Hmm.
myself in one. Like I could not like because I've done shapewear and I can't breathe. You can't
Hmm.
sit. I
Same.
like I.
Yeah.
I think that's like the hardest for me. Like when you're wearing a pair of jeans that is uncomfortable at your waist, I could not. I don't like. I don't own a pair of
Hmm.
jeans that's not comfortable for me.
Yeah. When it digs in, it's like,
Yeah,
oh
so
no.
that's where I'm like I don't I consider myself like a okay when it comes to fashion, but I wouldn't fall for these things just to make my body look a certain way when I'm not comfortable at my
Hmm.
comfort's expense, you know? Um but
Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, when it comes to corsets, I just wanted to touch on it a little bit just because it seemed like such a fascinating thing and showed how like when our beauty standards got very hard as opposed to before when it was okay to wear, a toga for a man and woman. Um, and
Yeah.
loincloths were for everyone. And it's like what we called, I think it was called uh, a strophian cloth that served as a bra. Didn't look like it had any underwires in it when you Google it. And then now it's like boned and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
corsets. Um, just wanted to touch on that and kind of
No, it is. Yeah, it is interesting how like it does feel like a time in history where we took fashion standards to a wild extreme.
exactly. But it was for the wealthy mainly. You don't see the maids and stuff wearing corsets, and it was more ceremonial garb.
Hmm.
But in kind of conclusion, I want to talk about mass manufacturing and when that became popular and kind of like the only thing we have nowadays, right? Like kind of touching back
Yeah.
for ready to wear clothes, ready right made for you clothes don't really aren't that common anymore. But before the
Yeah.
late 19th and early 20th centuries, ready made clothes practically didn't exist in North America. Most people wore clothing made at home, while those who could afford it just in clothes made by a tailor or seamstress. Um, and a
Hmm.
government report issued that in 1911, um, they found that two-thirds of all garments worn by inhabitants in the United States were homemade. And
Oh,
that's only 1811. So not that long ago when you think about it, right? Did I say 1911 before? Is that what you're surprised?
yeah. Well, that's what I understood at the very least. I don't know. I don't. We'll roll the tape and reveal what you actually said. But that's what I understood because it is still 200
Yeah,
years
but
ago.
to
So.
me, like, I don't know. I just feel like clothing has been around for so long, and the way we look at clothing now is so, 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 so different that like 200 years ago
Hmm.
doesn't feel that long, you
I
know?
know, right? And like there must have been such different attachment to your clothes when it was like handmade by someone you
Hmm.
knew or yourself. You
Yeah.
know.
And like, even now, during my week this week, I cleaned out the under of my bed, the under of my bed.
Mm,
And I like kind of store all these clothing under there in like vacuum seal bags that I had a hard time
yeah,
letting go. And it's like I looked at this one top and I was like, oh, this is back in fashion. And I never wore it, you know? And like I know my
funny.
sister, she has like attachment to her clothes. She has suitcases and suitcases of her clothes that she doesn't let go of. And at first I thought she was crazy. And now all these things are coming back in fashion. And I'm like, oh my God, why did I donate everything I owned immediately after?
Mm,
Um, it's so crazy to think about what a difference it is in the generations in like ancient times versus modern times when it comes to clothing. And now, you wouldn't ever think about leaving your house with no clothes on, let alone just your underwear or a
yeah,
loincloth. And back then, that's all they really
yeah,
had, sometimes depending on where you came from.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, it's very interesting for sure. Our relationship to clothes is strange. Do you fix your clothes?
No. I I don't think,
You don't?
unfortunately, I don't have clothes that like are worth fixing.
Right. That's
Like
fair.
I think if I ripped an H&M top, I wouldn't care to. I'm trying to think. I think I've sewn a couple things of my husband's. But like I think my
Mm.
clothes, like I don't like get rips in them usually. It's more like they just get very like after washing them, the quality's so bad that like after a couple washes they look so used.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing also. I try to be much, much, much more careful with
Yeah.
my washing, but sometimes there's just
Yeah.
nothing
I
to do
like
about it.
barely put anything in the dryer anymore. But
That's that I'm bad at. I'll put on the
yeah.
lowest heat setting or like no heat and then I'll just run it for
Yeah. Oh
two
my
hours.
God.
But I hate hanging up clothes so much. But it
Yeah.
makes a big difference.
Yeah. Um
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I would love to do an episode one day about fast fashion, but I think that, we've all kind of know what it is and are aware of what it is nowadays, but what an
Hmm.
impact that makes on our environment. And another thing that we didn't talk about is in ancient cultures, like sustainability. Like I'm sure, like they didn't they didn't throw
Yeah.
something out just because it got a stain on it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
well, we're so guilty of that kind of thing. Yeah, like I don't repair clothes and I don't know many people that do. Like I think my mom still may, but I think like our generation it's less and less.
I repair
Okay.
my clothes.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a lot of rips because
Yeah.
of chafing, so I'll repair those often.
Are you a good
And
sewer? Are
then
you good at sewing?
no,
Oh,
I'm terrible, but
okay.
I'll do
Where'd
it
you learn?
anyways. School,
Yeah.
like in home ec. Oh, you didn't have that. You're too young.
I
They
didn't have
removed it
home ec, but
already.
we did have like a fashion class that I took. Like I sewed a pillowcase. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. Like I learned how to use a
Do you have a
machine to sew
machine?
in home ec and stuff like that. Like I'm not good at it, but like these sleeves actually like I sewn the cuffs so that they stay cuffed up.
Oh, that's really creative. Good for
Yeah.
you. Do you have a machine or do you do it by hand?
Everybody's so creative. By
Whoa,
hand. I don't have a machine, but I have a friend who's willing to share his machine, and we're supposed to do like a little
that's
fashion
so
night.
fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And like, I know you touched on this earlier about how you want to go thrifting more, but something that's been bothering me is the prices at thrift stores lately because, like they've made thrifting into such like it's not a sustainable thing. It's more like a cool thing. You see rich people thrifting,
I know,
you know?
I know, and it's just like these are supposed to be like non-for-profit organization, right? Organization, and now they're selling the stuff I'm giving them away for free for like more than I paid for it myself. It's like what the
Exactly, and,
hell?
like, consignment stores, like, I had, nice Lululemon and Aritzia things, unworn tags on, and I took it to
Hmm.
the consignment store, and it was like, "Oh, yeah, this is not really what we're looking for," and I'm like, "What? Like, you expect me to bring Marc Jacobs with the tag on? Like, I don't understand."
Yeah. No, it's very catered.
Hmm.
Hmm. You know what I'm excited for? And I think like I'm probably gonna enter that stage of my life sooner than than it's expected. You know, like how like old people just start wearing really wacky, crazy stuff because they just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited for. Like I feel like that's that's gonna be my moment to shine fashion wise
Interesting.
because I am so attracted to all these wacky, colorful, crazy
Yeah.
stuff. But I like I either don't dare or I feel like I don't pull them off yet.
Okay.
But like more and more, I'm getting to a place where like I just don't care,
Good for you.
and it's just like yeah.
Good for you.
So I'm very excited about that stage of my life.
Um, I am the opposite on that.
Oh shoot, my headphones just died, so now you came on the speaker of the computer. Let me just plug in another pair of headphones so that we don't hear you in double.
Okay.
You're the opposite in what way?
Um, so yeah, I'm the opposite of that. I think the older I get, the more I start caring about my fashion sense. Like I think when I was younger, I was more like I dressed for comfort. As the older I get, I'm more like excited to wear like more fashionable
Like
things.
elegant and
Yeah.
uh,
Um,
you're gonna be Miranda in Devil Wears Prada, and I'm gonna be the kooky old lady in the street that no one is sure if she's homeless or not.
I thought you were gonna mention another like oh Devil Wears Prada character. No, I why am I confusing that with Sex in the City? I love Devil Wears Prada. I
Oh
thought you
yeah,
were talking about Sex in the City. I was like, whoa, you
no,
know
no,
their
no,
names.
no. I do though. I love that show.
We're gonna be like the old people like Frank and Gracie.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Grace and Frankie, sorry.
Grace and Frankie. I'm gonna be Frankie. You're gonna be Grace.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Too funny.
Well, I wanted to end this by saying a lot of my research was from the internet, and as always, our sources will be in our bio. I hope
Wonderful.
you'll enjoyed listening.
Also, like little asterisks, not as always. Sometimes our sources are in our bio. We're working on that. Sometimes it's more relevant than others. But
All of my sources are in the bio.
well, yeah.
Tomo, he'll try his best.
When when now that Sanya started writing her own episode notes, her sources are in her bio.
No, I always went back before you published to put my sources in there because
You're
I'm
right.
so scared of plagiarization since I was a kid.
You're right. No,
Remember when they
I'm
made it
working on
seem
it.
like plagiarization would end your life?
Yeah. That's so true.
All right.
Um, all right.
See you
Well,
guys next week.
see you next week. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Bye. Tell Me Like I'm Stupid is created and produced by us, Saniya and Thomas. You can follow us on Instagram at Tell Me Like I'm Stupid.
If you'd like to support us, please subscribe and review on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Our cover art was created by Ish. Find him on Instagram at h.e.e.s.h.
Thank you for listening.